What's going on, Players Guild? Welcome back to the channel. I am Scott7, and today I'm joined by the one, the only, Alan Fan from Grand Archive TCG. How are you doing?
Hey, thank you, Scott. Pleasure to be here. I am doing great. Excited to do this. Excited to tell people about our game.
Yeah, and what a great game it is. So we'll dive into that. But first, a little bit about you. What's your role within Grand Archive, and just what's your experience with TCGs? I guess I think that's the first place to start with any creator.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be happy to tell you about myself. So, I am the project manager for Grand Archive. I basically take care of a lot of the business planning, and I work in tandem with the design team to make sure that we're on track and on time with our promises. A little bit about myself. I've worked at LGSs before. I've also been playing Magic for at least over 10 years. Sadly, no, no pro qualifiers or anything like that. I wish I was that good, but I am a big Magic fan. Yeah, I've also dabbled in other games like Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh, and a whole lot of TCGs, Digimon, yeah, you name it. If it's been out in the past 5 years, I probably played it.
Oh, I mean that's a pretty good range, right? I mean, we've had so many different games rise and fall in the past 5 years. The landscape's completely changed. So, then I guess what is Grand Archive then? If you could just do an elevator pitch, what is it that people can expect from Grand Archive?
Yeah, so the Grand Archive is an anime TCG with Western game design. We basically are in love with Magic the Gathering and their gameplay clarity, and we feel like a lot of the Japanese TCGs don't really sort of have that. So that was something that we wanted to create ourselves. We're big weebs, so we love anime. So that's how we ended up becoming creating something like Grand Archive. We also wanted something that was very collectible, and we're experimenting with that and trying to make our game, cool.
Cool and collectible as well as playable and clear. Yeah, I can totally get behind that. One of the things that does always slightly frustrate me is when we're getting just numbers like 20,000, 30,000. Like, I mean, just do
Yeah,
three.
that's one of the things that like we weren't a big fan of in like say games like Yu-Gi-Oh where the numbers are really inflated. It gets kind of hard to keep track of your life points. A lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh players I've seen just they have like graphing calculators to keep track of their life totals, and I'm like, I'm not getting a graphing calculator. I just need a pen and
It's
paper.
it's a lot for what essentially is. You could just boil it down to minusing a couple of zeros off of that number.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our main focus is just to have a nice competitive TCG anime TCG with simple numbers. So that's one of the things with clarity.
No, I really do respect that. I think that's a really good. I think it's a really good philosophy, especially with you guys coming to Kickstarter. Like a lot of the newer Kickstarter TCGs, the new generation, have this raw aesthetic to them. Some of them look super polished. Some of them look super nostalgic, and you fit into that mold of kind of mixing the both stylistic with the anime appeal, but also like a modern what you would expect a modern TCG to look like rather than a early 90s version of a TCG. So I think that's a really
Right.
cool balance to strike.
Oh, sorry. No, I was appreciating your comments.
Oh,
So, what were
well,
you saying?
that's fine. So where can people find Grand Archive right now before we get into some Kickstarter talk?
Okay, for sure. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, soon to be TikTok. So keep your eyes out for that. The best way to find out more about us is on our website at grandarchivetcg.com. Uh, you can find our link to Discord where we're the most active, and you'll probably find out the most information on there because you can actually talk with us.
Yeah,
So,
you're
yeah,
pretty open on the Discord, so it is a great place to get in and
yeah,
just talk with the people. And there's a great community forming in there already. So a lot of people have been
yeah. You guys,
speculating about gameplay, and we're gonna get to that. And I'm gonna try and go and get some answers today. So I hope you're
yeah,
ready for
for
that.
sure.
But first,
I am around.
Kickstarter. You are a Kickstarter TCG, and now that may bring up red flags for some people, and like, oh god, not another Kickstarter TCG. But I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Why Kickstarter? Why did you feel the need to go Kickstarter?
Yeah, so we believe in transparency, and so we're going to be as transparent as we can. Um, the idea behind Kickstarter was we've been designing this game for over a year now and doing the basic gameplay and stuff, and we just really wanted to raise a lot of funds to basically get the high quality art that you guys been seeing so far. Hiring artists is not cheap, so we felt like this was the best way for us to do so. Uh, that's basically it. We were really we don't want to make any sort of compromises when it comes to our art quality. So that's something that we're really proud of. That's the
I,
main reason for
I
Kickstarter.
respect that. I respect that. And obviously, then you've got to get production costs and stuff like that wrapped up into it as well. How will it be structured?
So, so I'm assuming you're asking maybe for like the prizes and stuff here, correct?
The tiers and just like, what's your
Yeah.
goal essentially? Like,
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'd be happy to tell you all about that. So we're going to be selling basically two main products. We'll have some additional add-ons and like other cool stuff on there. But the two main things that we're going to have is a starter kit. This is going to contain two starter decks. So the idea is that you'll be able to share this starter deck, or maybe give another one to your friend and get started playing the game. This will come with two exclusive Kickstarter booster packs. The idea of this is so you can have something collectible as well as a way for you to open up and power up your deck. That is the main idea behind the starter kit. And we'll also be featuring first ed boxes on there. So these aren't exclusive to Kickstarter, but they will be on there at a discounted rate.
okay,
So the main exclusive thing that you kind of get from Kickstarter is that starter kit. It's the main thing we want to sell because we want people to start playing.
so this starter kit that we're getting into obviously comes with the nice booster packs that are exclusive. Will those decks be available at a later date? Because on the site, I think it's Q2 2022 where it mentions starter decks. So is that the same starter decks, or how is that gonna unfold?
Yeah, so the same starter decks will be available later. We are currently deciding if we're wanting to make it so that the Kickstarter decks will have alternate art versions. It just really depends on what my team wants to really decide. I could message them real quick about it if you don't mind me
Yeah,
taking
no,
a
that's
second.
that's fine. And I guess on that alternate artwork line of thinking, will we see the traditional green K stamp anywhere on the cards? Which I know a lot of collectors are a big fan of seeing when they back Kickstarter projects.
Yes, yeah. Some of them will, the ones that come exclusive to Kickstarter will have that like green Kickstarter stamp on it, so people know that it's from Kickstarter.
Awesome. And like you did answer my follow up question, which was, cause it's a bit confusing on the website at the moment. It's like, is first edition Kickstarter? But you're saying that it's just a bit early access to Kickstarter. Sorry, first edition's early on Kickstarter at a discounted rate. So promoting first edition, but getting it a bit cheaper, right? Like I think that's a pretty good compromise actually for doing it via that way. But first edition
Right.
will be available later down the line.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The main thing is that the Kickstarter, we wanted people to be able to get that starter kit and really just kind of start playing.
And is there any sort of limitation on the starter kits?
Yeah, so it's going to be one per Kickstarter backer account, and we're planning to have additional rewards that you can add uh, on with our pledge manager. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming gonna use backer kit for fulfillment and stuff like that.
We're currently looking to the best one, but backer kit has been on our list. Yes.
Yeah, backer kit's my go-to one, which I know about. So, but yeah, some sort of
Sure.
fulfillment that makes it easy for you guys. That makes perfect sense.
Right.
So this was one that came up in Discord quite a bit. Was like, what's your immediate goal then? So coming into this Kickstarter, what is your hopes, and what will that get you through until into next year with?
Right. So our hopes for the short term is basically we're trying to just get as many people interested and playing Grand Archive. We want to get some sort of sales data so we can partner with distributors later on. That's mainly for our short term goals. For something like the long term, there's been like questions about anime and if we're gonna have like manga and story. We would love to have those things. However, if it causes us to sacrifice time and away from the game itself, then there aren't compromises that we're willing to make yet. So those are our current plans.
Yeah, so like all focused in on the game essentially, so you don't need that spin
Yeah,
off and taking up time and resources. That's a great focus. So in the
yeah,
long term then, and when I say long term, I'm thinking that first initial 3 years that most TCGs either make it or they don't. Which is,
right.
is a scary thought, right? Because 3 years is not a long time in the scale of a game's life. So
Yeah,
like what is the plan there then? And obviously
yeah,
can't reveal like, oh, set two is going to be this and set three, but like just general ideas.
yeah. So we want to have at least a consistent release of sets, and right now we're aiming to have three main sets and two supplementary sets every year. However, if Kickstarter doesn't do as well, we might start out a little bit slower, but eventually we will just reach that goal. That is our end goal.
Nice. I respect that.
There's been talk about tournament software and organized play. As soon as we get the first sort of product release, that's going to be on the forefront of our uh, I was our endeavors. Endeavors, that's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And yeah, so that's something that we're going to be trying to work on right away. And I think, in terms of like longevity and how long a game can really last, I think it's really dependent on the players, and we want to show that we care about our players and our collectors. So
and I respect that. Like, I think you have been skirting that line of you do have the emphasis on gameplay. Obviously, we haven't seen much gameplay, and we're going to get to gameplay in just a second. But like, at least from a collectible standpoint, I know a lot of people are already just interested based on the art, and then they're seeing the other things like the NFTs, which again we'll get to in a bit. But yeah, like it's so you've already got both parties interested. I think like I assume
right.
once the Kickstarter launches, that's when we're going to get more emphasis on here are the cards, here is how it's going to play. And in that vein, do you have a rough date in mind for the Kickstarter? You don't have to reveal it if you don't want to, but there are a
Sure.
lot of people antsy to know when that Kickstarter is going to launch.
So that Kickstarter date, we're looking at a date of November 16th. If everything goes right, and nothing crazy happened like a typhoon blowing through us or something, I don't know.
Well, God
Uh,
forbid that doesn't happen, but if it does
yeah.
happen, you heard it here first. That was an exclusive spoiler that the Grand Archive team got hit by a typhoon. But yes, so November
Yeah,
16th, and it's going to
November
be
16th, yeah.
like a month long, right?
About a month long, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Just to answer a previous question, so the starter decks themselves will not have exclusive alt arts, but some of the cards in that Kickstarter booster pack will. That's how the starter deck will be structured. So you'll be able to get that same sort of starter deck later on in the whenever we release more product.
wonderful. That's great to hear. Like as a player, that's just awesome. So I love to see that kind of thing. Like it very much puts your emphasis on. We just want to get this game to market. We just want to get this game to people. We're using Kickstarter to help us do that rather than trying to find a publisher. And I respect that route. I respect that route a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess. Oh,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just gonna say our sort of philosophy towards like collecting and playing. We believe that it should be at least a 50-50 split, and that is what makes up a healthy game. So that's sort of like our philosophy, and a lot of the choices that we do to release product and stuff is based around that.
yeah. And I think that's you do have to, right? Like some people might be anti-collector or anti-investor, but there are those aspects to it that help that TCG survive. So like it is, you can't just cater to one and ignore the other. You do have to have that middle ground, and it seems like you
Yeah.
guys have your own set balance in your mind of where you want to go there. And it right now it looks like that's where you're going to hit at. But I think one thing that trumps any of collectability is how a game plays, and I'm gonna try and get as much out of you here, Alan. So brace
Okay, for
yourself.
sure. Yeah, bring it on.
So we saw the map teased on the Discord, so there's another reason for you guys to join the Discord. But can you give a basic overview of what the goal is? Because we've seen champions, we've seen fighters, we've seen equipment. What's happening? What's our goal here?
Okay, for sure. Yeah. So let's keep it short and simple, right? So the overview of the game, your goal is to defeat your opponent's champion before they defeat yours. That's it.
Well, fair enough, fair enough. And so, what type of cards were going to be in the game? So, I know it's been teased that there's more types of cards, but we've currently seen equipment, fighters, champions, and is there one more? I'm
Sure.
not sure.
I'll explain here. So we have champion cards. We have our equipment, which you guys have seen, and you've seen. We have like different sort of elements. Uh, so what's special about this? So champions are more active than they are in say like things maybe are like similar like the EDH, right? Your commander, he does something.
Hmm.
Like he can attack and do whatever. So our champion is the same, and we have a special like attack cards that go with those.
Oh.
And we also have our own versions of instants and sorceries, and then another card type, which I'll reveal here, is called domains. So You'll be seeing more of that in the future.
Ooh, domains. Yeah, we'll let people speculate on that. I'm assuming it's based around fields or something akin to that, but domains is a heck of a name. That feels
Uh-huh.
badass. Why has no one used that before? They like, well, you guys are using it now, so that's just crazy. I love that domain. Because I mean, that's like just think of all of the champions you've got in the game, and like just this is my domain now. Sort of getting sidetracked with the like idea of just being in a giant castle with that some of the champions, because you do have that high fantasy feel, at least from the cards we've seen so far. And
Yeah.
I guess I can touch upon that because obviously in the champions breakdown, the type of classes, sorry, not champions, that you do mention laser guns. So obviously we're not just sticking to this high fantasy um, aesthetic, I guess is the way of putting that.
Yeah. So while we are high fantasy, a little bit about the lore. The Grand Archive is sort of like a multi-dimensional sort of area. So this way we could explore all sorts of different types of worlds. So you could be seeing some like crazy stuff in the future, whatever we decide on. Really, I think I'll say that we have a lot of design space right now. We can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, and I think that was the one thing that I mentioned during my breakdown, the first look video, was just the possibility of, oh, we have a multiverse, therefore literally anything's on the table, right? Like, you could even, like, not putting any ideas out there, but if you crossed over with NOSTALGIX or cross AKORA, like, that could be possible due to how you've set up your lore in the game, right? Because,
Yeah.
and
We
I
didn't want to
love
limit
that.
ourselves. Yeah, we didn't want to limit ourselves to like one idea and be stuck with that. I think we have a bunch of creative people and that are going to be able to do some crazy things, and we have a lot of ideas, so we don't want to be stopped by anything like that. So we think that what we have right now is something pretty sweet.
And that's awesome to hear. So, how have you gone about testing the game then? So, I know in the Metamaniacs article that went up just before this interview was recorded, you mentioned mages being broken. So, how are you testing the game? How often? Like, how many people? Don't have to give exact numbers, but just a rough idea of what your process is.
Sure. So a lot of the time, like, in the beginning, we just been doing a lot of testing between close friends of ours. Like I mentioned, I worked at LGS, so we did some like events where we sent out a deck list between, or sorry, a card list between our close group of friends, and then everyone kind of created their own deck, and we gave a prize to whoever won the most that night. And then if we notice any obvious trends, we would balance the decks around it. And we've had some, well, I'll say we've had some busted things in the past. So we feel like the game is in a kind of a healthy, balanced place right now. But we really like to see, like, in the future, how creative our players can get.
Yeah, and
So
I think that's one thing I love to hear from, especially the new generation of creators, is when you mention balance in a game. Some of them are often hesitant to be like, well, there are issues with the game, like because no matter the card game, and I've never seen a card game that has been flawless and not had any teething issues, especially ones this early on, right? I card gamers just have this incessant ability to break whatever game they want to play, and they'll
yeah.
do it in the most unexpected ways. So like
And
when you hear,
that's sort of one of the things that we love, right? So
mm,
like things about Magic is like people finding combos that, or just like a solid strategy that other people haven't realized before, and doing something really amazing with that. And that's something that we don't want to stop, but we want to be sure that we have a fair strategies in mind with a if something happens to be broken, then we'll try our best to circumvent that. However, uh, we don't want to let it ban too many cards or anything like that.
mm,
We'll try to catch those things as much as we possible during like early iterations of playtesting, and we do a lot of playtesting. I'll say that.
well, that's good to know. I guess on that ban list sort of situation, like if you do have to, are you going that ban list route? Like, are you gonna be gun shy or will you be pretty rigid? Like, if something is objectively just bad for the game, you're not gonna be too worried about banning it, or would you try and errata it to bring it in line? Like, what kind of balance are you looking for in that regard?
So, most of us, or most of the team, we're just not a big fan of erratas. We feel like that, like, kind of circumvents the idea of gameplay clarity. It's not really fun for people to go and like have to look up like, oh, this rule changed, 3 years ago, and this is not how this works anymore for because of this card type. So if this thing changed, like it gets complicated,
Yeah,
and we
no, it
don't
does.
really appreciate those kinds of things. So the as for things that aren't healthy for the game and that we feel like isn't good, we're pretty much more rigid on that sort of like idea of a ban list, and then we will really don't want to do any sort of bans until we really feel like it's really unhealthy for the game.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So that's a good philosophy to have, I think. Like, because it does get to a point where you're just looking at a document, just like, okay, so this card says this on the card, but it actually doesn't do this. And
Yeah,
yeah, like if you're trying to onboard someone onto any game, and you're like, my card says it does
yeah,
this, but then you're like, well, no, there's this thing outside of the game that says it doesn't. Like, yeah,
right.
it's not new play friendly, and it is just an inconvenient. It is. I know so many times where I've gone to a tournament and like, right. I need to know all the rulings and changes based on like someone moving a comma, and it's just
Right.
like, cool, right? Yep, that's card games, and I
The
guess
only
you're trying to address that with the simplicity factor of your card design.
Yeah. So like the only erratas that we ever have to change or we feel like that we have to do, say if we release um in a case like this, right? So if you're aware of the in Magic the Gathering, there's a Elf Lord, but its original creature type was just Lord, and so Wizards had to errata that later in the future to make Elf Lord, which is like something that we'd be willing to do in cases like those. But for like rule changes and stuff, we don't. We'll just be. We do a lot of play testing, and we don't feel like we'll have to do those like ever often. So
Yeah.
that's sort
So
of our plan for that.
yeah. And then I guess still in that same, are you obviously you Magic is an inspiration for the game, uh, and Magic does use rotation. Are you planning a rotation style game, or do you prefer the open pool of chaos essentially?
So so as a Magic player, my favorite format is Modern. However, our game is going to be a rotation based, standard set.
Okay.
However, we probably won't have rotation until at least when we have a few years of sets out. So in the beginning, you're going to be able to use a lot of different types of cards as we release them. And then in the future, we might experiment with like an extended format, modern format, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Singleton and stuff like that. Yeah, so there's like
Yeah.
lots of growing room, and then it keeps the formats fresh. Yeah, I can totally get behind that. Um, so then we do have class systems in the game. So you've mentioned champions. So how do champions and classes kind of different, right? Like, so are there just types of champions for that class, or are specific classes destined to have specific champions? If that makes sense.
So champions are going to be tied to their class, and then we'll design. So if we say when we're designing a champion, if we're uh, like we have this like lore for this character set, and we feel like they belong to this class, that's kind of how we decide. That's how kind of how we design that.
Mm.
Yeah, and then our goal with classes, we feel like they give us a lot of design room for these champions, and we could make like variations of things like these classes do, but still go under the same like class archetype, right?
Okay, so
So
you,
like a
like not necessarily just creating a new class just for the sake of creating it. Like if it acts like an assassin, moves like an assassin, we're gonna just subcategorize it as a assassin, right? Like it's
yeah,
not super stealthy ninja as a new class.
right, yeah.
Right. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
all the classes that have been posted on the website, those are the ones that we have planned for the foreseeable future, and those are going to be the main classes that we work with. Like I said, I feel like that gives us a lot of playroom and a lot of things that we can do. Helps players like hope that players will be able to find like their identity in those classes.
Yeah, I think it's also great just to be able to shorthand explain to someone. It's like, right, well, what does this deck do? Well, it's a ranger, so it uses range. You can break it down, and you're like, okay, well,
Yeah,
I have some semblance of that from the gaming lexicon, so I do know, and like, or a where it's focused on healing or something, or a healing mage or something like, you know what I mean? You can break it down into those terms, and that introduce those terms, it makes it really easy to explain. Don't expect to see all the classes represented. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, we hope that similar to like maybe Flesh and Blood's design space or release, they try to give support like where they can, and feel like each class will be sort of getting like support at least in every. We'll try to balance that as much as possible, but not every class will be in every set.
So, do you have a favorite class then?
Oh, yeah, easy. Mine is the warrior class. That's definitely just my favorite.
Any
It's sort of
particular
like
reasons?
you interact with your champion the most there, and it's also just like a straight beat 'em up class. So you're doing a lot of attacking with your champion, and it also supports like sort of like a mid-rangey sort of style, which is like one of my favorite like kind of ways to play the game.
Nah, I respect that. I like decks that allow me to equip different weapons and stuff like that. So when I see that mechanically, I'm just like, ooh, this is exciting. That's why I really got on with Flesh and Blood early on, because I was like, well, I can give this weapon and I can give this weapon, and then I can just go and do crazy things in that. So the idea of that being in the warrior class is quite tempting for sure. But I personally, I was super drawn to the Tamer class. I've let it be known in the Discord. I'm like, I love the idea of tamers, because that can open a bunch of doors. Because it doesn't just mean you can have a wild animal, you could have pets, you could have familiars. There's so much you could do with just word tamers. So when can we expect a Scott from Players Guild tamer card?
So I don't know about a Scots from Players Guild Tamer card, but I think if you follow us for just a little bit longer, you might be seeing something cool for Tamer class. Right now, we are currently working on what we think is like going to be a really cool video. We are waiting for like the big impact and the big reveal, and we'll show everybody that at the same time. But we think that we have something really cool brewing right now, and it's gonna be pretty sweet.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to see that. And I'm sure I'll do a video on it. And so, obviously, we've mentioned gameplay and players, but there is another half to card games, and that is the collectors and the investors. So, how are you approaching the distribution of the game? I know you've mentioned distributors, but are you going to have a space on the website to order first editions, or how is that going to play out?
So this is how we're going to do it. In the beginning, I think it's most realistic that we're going to be doing direct to consumer. So that means that you'll be able to order from us on our website. However, as I mentioned before, as we get more sales data, we hope to partner with distributors and then have them distribute product from there. We don't really feel like the need to be like the Pokemon Center, for example. So we want distributors to be working with LGSs and getting that product out through there.
Yeah, no, no judgments here. With the direct-to-consumer model, will you have a version for stores, or is it just going to be across the board, this is how we're going to do it?
It's more of like we'll just have like first ed boxes and things like that, like going straight. Everyone should be kind of receiving the same sort of product.
Yeah.
To their stores. Yeah.
Okay. And with obviously Kickstarter has that exclusivity limitedness to it. So, but first edition, I know you've mentioned what like exclusivity stuff like. There's going to be some exclusive stuff in first edition, but is first edition going to be a limited print run, say 50,000, or do you plan to print to demand essentially?
So this is how we're going to do it. We're actually going to be very similar to Flesh and Blood. So we'll have first edition print runs, and then all the numbers will be available for those. You'll have all the collector cards and all your sort of like rare cards. You'll have print runs for all of those as well. Alongside with that release, we'll be doing unlimited boxes as well that players will be able to buy and spend, significantly less, or what we think will be less, to build their decks and get cards. And those unlimited sets are printed demand.
Okay, so unlimited will be to demand. First edition, you've got a rough idea of a number you want. So I guess that does lead me on to, especially if you're using the website, how are you going to plan against people just botting it, being like, oh, Kickstarter took off, I want first edition, okay, I'm just going to set up a bot and buy 10k boxes. I mean, I know that, I don't know. Is that realistic? I don't know anymore. I don't know what world we live in with bots and stuff, but scalpers in general, right? That scalping culture that seems to have kind of grown over the Kickstarter boom.
So while we feel like the issue with scalpers, they're trying to make up a huge profit and stuff. So we get it. It's part of the nature of just trading card games, and we hope that with unlimited and first edition just being more collectible than unlimited. However, players will still be able to get their hands on a lot of the unlimited cards, and scalpers just will not be able to make a profit off of those boxes. So that's sort of like our plan and mindset towards that right now. If things become a huge problem, then we're gonna figure out a solution to that. But
Okay.
at the moment, yeah, that's our plan.
So I know again I touched upon this earlier. You do mention the exclusivityness of first edition. Are there going to be any mechanically unique cards, or is it just more artwork like that is the variants for first edition?
Yeah, it's more just the we won't ever release mechanically unique cards in first edition that you can't get in unlimited. That's just not something that we're gonna do.
That's
So
perfect. That's the perfect answer to that. There's no way around it. And then
yeah,
with promos again in that vein, because I know some games love to go overboard, Dragon Ball, with promos that have mechanically unique stuff, and then not everyone can get to a local, especially with a game this early on. Like, it's not adopted enough, so like if you have a mechanically unique promo, it can be hard, and then does become really expensive, and then if people want to play with it, it becomes hard. So what's your promo process, if you even have one, if you're planning on doing it, which I assume
yeah.
you are, because
So
promos are kind of a big part of card games.
we we will be having promos, and we'll be doing those for like special events, things like exclusive cards or like gag cards. Like in the case of like Rudy's Go Bananas in Flesh and Blood, right? It's just those cards will just not be, they're not legal cards. They're just for fun, sort of like unset cards in Magic, right? So those are like I said, mechanically unique cards won't ever be really hard to get in like we just won't have those like available for competitive play.
Oh,
It's
that's super good. That's super good.
yeah.
And I guess in that vein, is there any cards, like I believe this is a Magic thing, I'm not super familiar with this, so you're the expert here, is the reserve list, which I've now just realised I've typed reverse list. The reserve list, is there anything planned for that? I think it's the cards that just don't get reprinted, like the Power 9, right?
Yeah. Nope. We will not have a reserve list.
That's fair. And then
That's
another thing that collectors keep asking about, grading. Any plans?
grading. Yeah. So our plans for grading right now is that we want to have it, but our main focus is still on the current TCG. If demands continue to rise and you guys really, really want it, we will try to work faster and get that done right away. But at the moment, it's just a little bit lower on our list right now.
No, and that's fair. That's totally fair. I guess we've already answered the thing about main decks and side decks a year. Any plans like outside of the US? Because I know a vast majority of your audience will be US. Looking at the AKORA data, most of that audience is in the US, even if it is a UK TCG. But I don't want to see a MetaZoo situation where the UK is just completely forgotten, and in that vein, the rest of the world. But obviously, I'm in the UK, so that's what I care about. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for
what
sure.
is the kind of idea there?
So we're our US focused game, and honestly, if anybody is willing to help us, with our global outreach, we'd be happy to work. So you can contact us at just go to Grand Archive TCG. You can get in the Discord, contact us, talk to us on there. My DMs are open, and we'd be happy to work, try to get this game global. But with the current manpower that we have, we're just focusing on the US.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable, right? You're a small upstart. You got Kickstarter to come out, and then, but yeah, Players Guild, myself, will be looking to try and at least get a little tiny foothold in the UK for you, if not just because I want the anime cards. So that's good. So will
For sure,
shipping
for sure.
be on the website be global, or is that just going to be restricted to US then?
If we do global shipping, then all the prices and everything will be there and transparent. We won't do any sort of like hidden surprise shipping fees, so you'll know that way beforehand.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, we will be willing to ship globally. It just at the moment, yeah, our global endeavors aren't as
Start small
well
and then
done as
scale
our
up, right? Like,
yeah yeah
yeah,
yeah.
no, I can totally respect that. Uh, Now let's get on to the controversial thing, and I mean, I'm assuming you watched that nice 30-minute video I did on a website, which it shocked me how that I could talk to 30 minutes
I did
based on that
actually.
website.
Yeah, I did.
NFTs, I'm not a fan. That's my bias, and I'm gonna hold that up here. It's not a criticism of your game using them. I'm not a fan personally of NFTs.
For sure, for
And
sure. So,
oh, no, carry on.
uh, uh, I'll speak a little bit about why we're using NFTs, and then, so the the fundamental idea behind NFTs is to improve the collectivity of something. So, we believe that NFTs can really improve the collectivity of our game, and then we want to be one of the first like early adopters for that.
Mhm.
What we don't wish to partake in is the sort of predatory nature of NFTs that has been apparent on the internet. Our whole goal with this is just to be able to distribute the packs to our players who can add this to their collection and sort of just be able to have something. We don't want to enter the market or make any sort of profits by selling NFTs. We are simply just the distributor. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, so like I open a pack, I get one of these cards, and then I get my. It'll be a random pack, right? It won't be the same pack I open.
right, yeah, it will be
Yeah,
a random pack. So basically, how it's going to work is you're going to have this mobile app, which will also interact as your sort of wallet.
okay.
And in every few packs, you'll get a code card for an NFT booster pack of Grand Archive.
And will this
And
just be first edition, or is this unlimited product as well?
so they should be able to distinguish the first edition and unlimited,
Okay,
and
but so there is
you'll
going to
be
be
able to
digital
have,
versions of both, right? Like, so it's not just
yeah,
NFTs are
with the
exclusive to
way
first edition.
right, yeah, with the way that we're planning it, it should be available for both.
Okay.
And then so with the NFTs, you're able to keep like sort of that history with it, and you'll be able to see that like where they came from and everything.
So trying to bring
Uh,
NFTs to a more playground style. Oh, I've got this. I'll swap it with you, and I don't have to
yeah,
just ship you it across the internet. And then you do have that digital aspect to it. And when you mention
yeah.
the app, is it going to be a Grand Archive app then?
No, so it's going to be through the engine. What the technology we were using is called Engine,
Mhm.
and what you'll use to scan in the QR code is called Engine Beam, and that puts it into your Engine wallet. And then they're utilizing technology like JumpNet, so there will be no transaction fees or gas fees, and things should be happening like instant. It should just be like trading a card with a buddy online or something of that nature. That's our hopes with it.
So obviously, I was going to bring this up as like where like obviously with NFTs, yeah, I'm assuming you're not giving the rights to these cards along with them, right? Because that's not really what NFTs are about.
Right. Yeah.
So
So like you're not taking the NFT and then being able to use it, wherever. We're sort of gonna do like we want the NFTs to be able to be used in a future game, like say like a online version of Grand Archive
mhm.
or any sort of other Grand Archive game or other project that we may partner with. Say for example, like a something maybe on the lines of like a VR sort of chat where you can use your NFT cards to play cards like on tabletop, something like
Oh,
that. You'll be
okay.
able to. So that's sort of the idea. Is like it's like a inventory that belongs to you that you don't have to worry about. Say our company holding up the servers. And
Yeah,
if that
and
we were
so
to shut down, then you would lose all your cards.
that's not
That's
going to
sort of
happen, right? Because it's
yeah.
ownership. It'll be in that wallet, right?
The ownership will be in that wallet. We will not have any sort of control over that.
Mhm.
And like I said, the only thing that we are going to be doing is going to be distributing the packs. We will not be openly selling or buying NFTs to make any sort of profit.
Yeah.
That's just not where we want to be.
No, and
We're
that's
trying.
that's that's one of my major concerns is because whether it's open and obvious or not, there are people who can manipulate the NFT market behind the scenes, especially with because they're legally allowed to do it because the people who own the NFTs don't have the copyright. Um, so it is a weird grey area, and that is one of the things that is the reason why I am so anti NFTs. But from the way you're sounding about, it's more about bringing it back to that playground mentality of just here's another thing you collect. You're not paying for it. It just comes with a product you're already getting. And then if you wanted to trade it with your friend or sell it to somebody online, you can. And it works, right? Because it's ownership of the
Yeah.
NFT. Uh,
Yep.
it's a really
Exactly.
confusing
It's still part of the
technology, and it's still
Yeah.
new. So I understand wanting to embrace it. I'm a fan of new technologies. I mean, I have a robot hand because I'm missing a hand. Um, so obviously, for me to be like, well, technology's bad, I wouldn't have a limb, would I? Um, but yeah, like
Good. That is a fair point. Yeah.
it is just one of those things that, like, for me personally, it's something that I see it and I just see all of the bad stuff, and it just I don't want that to mar Grand Archive before it can even get going. If that makes sense, like that's
Yeah.
my fear. Is
So
just being like, oh great, there's an NFT scandal. Grand Archives gets implicated in it because it uses a form of NFT.
yeah, like
Hmm.
I said, we are very aware of like situations around it. We believe that the technology itself is not bad, and as a company, we want to do things in the most non-predatory way as possible, and we are very careful with how with our practices around that. So at the moment, yeah, or actually not even at the moment, and for the long foreseeable future, you won't see any sort of Grand Archive selling or buying NFTs to make a profit or anything like that. We only wish for players to control the market.
That's more than fair, and I respect the transparency, right? Like I respect being able to come onto here knowing that I do have a bias about NFTs, and that is a part of your game, and then being like having this conversation. And I do respect you for answering those questions. One last thing is
Right.
just regard to the digital card game, and obviously the app's going to be the Beam technology rather than your own proprietary app. Could we see a middle ground between that where I don't know if the Kickstarter does super well, but like you could have a card viewer which includes your NFTs as an app. Like I don't know the technology behind that. I don't know if that's possible, but just like not a full fledged digital version of the game, but a place where I can look at my digital NFT Grand Archive cards and then trade it on there with other people who have that app. I don't know if that's possible, if that's even on your roadmap or.
So in terms of like any sort of like marketplace that we control, we are not going to have any sort of marketplace like that
Okay.
where Grand Archive is involved in your transactions.
Okay.
We will have a card database, and we can link whatever sort of information on there, say like TCG player prices or
Okay.
the current NFT like trade value of whatever is on there. That's the only way. That's the only thing that we've been planning on doing. Uh, Other than that, like I said, we ourselves are not going to have any sort of influence on the marketplace. We want that to be something that players and collectors are the only ones that are involved in that.
Perfect. No, that's yeah, that's great. That's genuinely great. Like my fears slightly less alleviated. Still don't like
Yeah.
NFTs. You're not going to change my opinion on that, but I like it's not the worst case scenario. You're not going to be selling, oh, here's this minted one of one 10K, go and buy it now and you'll get a bunch of random stuff associated with it. Like that's not
Right.
on the cards right now.
Yeah, that is it will never be in the cards.
Ah,
So,
well, there you go.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so just some general questions before we wrap up here. We've seen a few female characters which look amazing. Are we expecting male equivalents? I know a few ladies in the Discord have asked it. Like, are we going to see some husbandos if we want to use cringe terms?
So there will be plenty of husbandos, waifus. We'll have all sorts of types of characters. We want the Grand Archive to have a wide and diverse cast. So you'll be able to see all types of different characters. We don't want to limit ourselves to just having like male, female, sort of vibes.
Yeah, so like weird squid monsters. I'll take that. Yeah, one-handed card game players who may or may not be tamers. I'm just putting that out there. Like definitely
Yeah.
not hinting at anything. And if you want to continue the good coverage, I better see that. Nah, not none of that here. But you like to see it. You like to see it. And one thing I have been pushing behind the scenes of all of these card games is a bit more representation because we don't generally see those with disability. So the Joker side is there, but like it
Yeah.
would be nice to see
So
some of these card games represent that.
yeah, our basically our design space that we will be as diverse and as I'm not sure what word I'm actually looking for right here. But yeah, we want to have really diverse characters and fair representation for everybody. So we'll try to do that as much as we can. If we feel like an idea is really cool, then we're going to develop on that. So a one-handed, like a one-handed bandit, or, whatever sort of tamer, we'd be happy to explore those sort of ideas in the future. So you can expect to see a lot of different types of characters from
That's
Grand
that's
Archive.
great to hear. And last but not least, before we get out of here, the artists, because the key part of this game and a lot of the appeal right now is on that artist. So if you wanted to talk about the artists for a little bit and how many of you currently got, are they in house or are they freelance? And Jay, if you just wanted to give them a shout out, because you can't have a
Yeah.
great card game without great art.
So, yeah, we're super blessed and super happy to be working with such fantastic artists. Currently, we're working with around 10 different artists. Um, you'll be able to see sort of we'll be featuring some on our Kickstarter page. But however, we're probably wanting to keep a lot of the others incognito until we actually release the final product. Every artist will be credited for their artwork on the card. So similar in Magic, you'll be able to see which artist did what.
Awesome. Love to see that. So yeah, before we get out of here, where can people find Grand Archive?
Yeah, you can find the Grand Archive on grandarchivetcg.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, soon to be TikTok, and yeah, follow us to find out more information about our Kickstarter. There's a lot of information on our website, and please join the Discord. We would love to have more people join the community. You can talk to me. You can talk to the other devs on there as well.
Awesome. And again, when is that estimated date? We won't lock you in. We won't be like, well, if it doesn't happen on November 16th, we're gonna go mad. But when is the estimated Kickstarter date? Which I
November
just said.
16th. Yeah, November 16th is when we're going to be doing where we're hoping to be doing our Kickstarter here.
Awesome. So there you go, guys. 16th of November. You can already sign up to get a notification anyway. But 16th of November, get your wallets ready, and yeah, get ready to back some Grand Archive. I'm so scared of saying Grand Alliance. Maybe if you watch at the end of the video, you'll understand why I'm saying that. I might leave it in as a blooper. Who knows? Any final comments before we get out of here, Alan? Thank you again for doing this.
Yeah, no, of course. Thanks for having me. And so some of the final comments I wanted to mention is that you can find more. There's been some questions about some environmental impacts of NFTs and just cryptocurrencies in general. You can find more information about that just by searching Engines JumpNet. They have a great deal of information about that, and you can learn more about how they're trying to reduce the cost of electricity of these sorts of transactions.
Awesome.
And there's been some mentionings of maybe wanting to see some husbando type characters. So I'm gonna upload something a little sneaky here. And
Ooh.
So,
Well, there you go, guys.
go.
If you are watching that, we have got a nice rough outline, not colorized version to that. So what are we looking at here?
I'll leave it up to the Players Guild and all of its fans to up to your discretion what you think it is.
Oh,
And,
well, there
I'd
you
love
go,
to hear your
guys.
thoughts.
Leave the comments in below and get it shared into the Discord. Let us know what you think, and thank you for that bombshell. So yeah, thank you, Alan. I'm sure people will be coming with many questions, and hopefully we can do this again, probably at the end of Kickstarter, and see how well things have gone. Again, guys, 16th of November. Alan, thank you for your time. It's been a great day. I've adopted a puppy. I should have probably mentioned that at the start because people were really invested in the puppy. Guys, if you don't know who I am, I'm Scott Sedman, the Guildmaster here at Players Guild, and expect more from Grand Archive, and we'll see you next time. And so yeah, finally, just where can people find Grand Alliance if they're looking for it?
So I don't know about the Grand Alliance, but you can find us Grand Archive on.
Oh damn! Thank you. Oh, Scott, why did you not read that last bit? Okay, I'll just redo that bit again.